So to start with, we're going to open the session with a really short meditation just to help get you grounded, centered, and kind of in the zone, because often we can come to yoga having had maybe a hectic day or a hectic week, okay? We have this saying that we say at the studio, which is like, get messy, and I think that's so important when you're maybe new to yoga, or if you've been practicing yoga for a long time. Sometimes our kind of tendency can be that we have to get stuff right. And I really would love to invite you all to just let go of that, especially for this session, and just consider that there is no such thing as right or wrong, and that we're just literally going to enjoy moving, and hopefully I can share some kind of helpful tips and tricks as to how to keep yourself kind of calm and grounded and centered through quite a simple practice today. So, like I said before, meditation is not something that you need to kind of be very well practiced in, or someone else in your family need to do, or anything like that. Just think of it as a way of just flexing the muscle of the brain, so exercising your mind just like you're about to with your body. Okay, so to start with, really simply just find a comfortable seat. Okay, and it can be any seat at all, so whatever works for you. Some people do like to lie down in meditation, and that's cool. You can lie down in meditation if you want to. Just make sure that as much as possible you can stay alert. Okay, so it's this kind of balance between being relaxed and also being alert. Okay, so when you've found that position, just take a moment to close your eyes down when you feel ready. And it's all about, this is called arriving. This is about arriving in your practice and just taking a note of that. Like, I am arriving into my practice and leaving everything that doesn't serve me at the door. Just for the next 30-35 minutes, focusing on this time for you and only you. So to start with, really simple, you're just going to try and relax every single muscle from your head to your toes. Okay, so with your eyes closed, see if you can almost just lift your brows so you're not frowning. Sometimes we can start feeling quite tense, and you'll feel that around the top of the head, but try to kind of lift those, almost like you're trying to lift your ears. You get that sense of space around the head. And as we create space physically, we can start to feel space mentally. And working down, try to relax all of the skin on your face. Let the tongue hang in your mouth. Part the back teeth. So interestingly, when the teeth are chomping, it sends a signal to the body that we're in fight or flight. So just a simple act of parting the teeth signals to the body that we can rest. We move into rest and digest. And the only time our teeth should touch is when we're eating. And keeping moving down through the body, try to let your shoulders just relax, let them fall down in towards the centre of your body. So we don't have that sense of having to hold on, hold up anything. Just letting go completely. Perfect. And then allow your weight to just sink down through your sit bones into the ground. And take a moment to feel grounded. And don't worry exactly what that means. That's going to have a different interpretation for everyone, but just have that sense of you are here now in this present moment. And allow the ground to almost support you, to be holding you up. Let yourself just kind of sink 10% more into the ground. In other words, kind of letting go. And wherever the knees are, just let them hang out. And the feet. Really simply now, instead of focusing on nothing, so getting rid of the idea that we could ever think of nothing, that's not possible, but instead we just think of one thing, the closest number to it. And we choose something which is tangible, so we can feel it, and that's our breath. That helps us stay present. So just take your attention to the base of your nostrils, so your top lip, And just notice the feeling of your breath as you inhale and exhale. And let go of the need to try to fix anything. There's no better or worse, you're just simply observing what is. I love that analogy of like David Attenborough during meditation. You're just observing. You're not interrupting, but we're just learning through observation. And notice if the mind wanders, where does it go? Who or what are you giving your energy to? And can you, with kindness to yourself, guide your focus back to the top lip? And as you repeat that process, it's almost like the flexing of the muscle of the mind. As it wanders, you guide it back, and the mind, the focus will get stronger. It won't wander to places that don't serve us. Remember that if the mind wanders to the past, that can link to depression. If we end up living there most of the time in the mind. Or if it wanders to the future, that can link to anxiety. So we try and practice staying present by the feeling of our breath. Really simple. Perfect, guys. Well done. So just take a moment from there to give your shoulders a big breath in, big clearing breath out. Do a couple more of those in your own time. So throughout the whole practice, just try and go at your own time. You're not being told what to do, these are just options, and if anything else feels better, you do what feels good to you. Clearing breaths whenever you need them. And then to start with, you're just going to move into this all four position. You're moving into all fours. Okay, so we call this tabletop pose. And to start with, you're going to take some cat-cows. So cat-cows is just when you arch the back. So you would inhale, lift the head up, drop the belly down, really lift the tail. And then you do the opposite. So you curl the chin to chest and you really round your back. Amazing, good. And then just keep doing that in your own time. And again, in time with your breath. So you inhale, lifting up and opening your heart, and then exhale, curling in. So if you think it's really logical, like a vacuum, it's like as you make the space bigger, you draw the breath in, and as you squeeze the space smaller, it squeezes the breath out. And that's actually the whole rule of thumb throughout yoga. So every time you're moving upwards and opening the space, it draws the breath in. And every time you're moving downwards or reducing the space, squeezes the breath out. Don't worry about getting the breath right or wrong. Just by having a focused sense of breathing, that will help you. Help you calm the mind, help you stay present, to stop worrying about things that we can't control, just draining. Really nice. So we're going to take that back into child's pose. Child's pose just means that you put your big toes together, your knees apart, and then you send your hips backwards so they're almost sitting on your heels. And let your head rest on the ground if it gets there. If it doesn't get there, don't worry about it, just come forward a little bit. So you might come into polar bear variation. Yeah, nice. So just choose a position that works for you. That's what's so important. Take the pressure off having to get anything right. Like a lot of our day, we're feeling like we need to improve or please, whatever it might be. This time is just time for you to just be just as you are. And this is a pose you can come back to whenever you need rest. Like even if you did the whole class in this pose and didn't move, there might be more yoga in that than any other pose because you're listening to yourself. Giving yourself what you need. Okay, big clearing breaths at any time. Here's a nice one. Deep breath in and a long sigh out. Let all of the day go. Perfect, guys. Well done. Come back into that tabletop position. So draw yourself forward onto all fours. And we're going to practice a little chaturanga. So chaturanga literally just means high plank, low plank. Okay, and obviously you can do that with your knees down. So as you exhale, try to use your arms. So try not to let your hips drop. And as you exhale, just squeeze the elbows into the waist and lower your chest down towards the mat. Perfect. And then as you inhale, you lift up to what we call an up dog. So you're just lifting your chest up there. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the whole way. You can keep a bend in the elbows. You could keep the forearms down if you wanted to. Lovely. So essentially it's the exhale, you go down to the mat, and then the inhale, you lift up, Good, and then exhale, we move into downward facing dog. So that's that little flow part of the sequence that you can pop in anywhere to create a bit more heat and make it a bit more challenging. Okay, let's do that again. So ripple forward to a high plank from your down dog. And remember, you can always bring your knees down. Lovely. And then you exhale through your low plank down towards the ground. Good. Inhale up to up dog. Any variation, so the shoulders go back and down. Lovely. And then exhale back into downward facing dog. So a bit like dancing, like this stuff takes practice. Once you've got it, you've got it. It's like a really simple routine. Awesome. So from there, you're going to lift your right leg up to the sky. Okay, we call that three-legged dog for obvious reasons. And this is a really nice way just to open the hips, also to strengthen the back. And try if you can, just to soften your knee a little bit there, the right knee. Good. And then almost try and press your belly back towards your thighs. Lovely. If you can, you're going to lightly step that foot forward towards your hands. It doesn't have to get all that way. You're just going to step it forward wherever it gets to. Brilliant. We move into what's called warrior one. So you're going to inhale, reach your hands up towards the sky. That's perfect. Your back foot, so your left foot, is slightly on the angle, like 45 degrees. And your front foot is straight on. You've got 90 degrees on the on the right knee. And then you're going to tuck your tail under. Perfect. Reach your arms up a little bit higher. Beautiful, good. So this is really strengthening the legs. So try and almost rip the mat apart with your feet. Really strong with the legs. Keep tucking the tail under because we want to neutralize the spine. Brilliant. And then relax your shoulders. Good. And even though this is a holding pose, if you're really ripping the mat apart with the legs, okay, then you're going to get really hot here. We call that isometric movement, where the muscles are working super hard even though we're not moving. That's a lot about what yoga is about. Take a big inhale. From there, open up to warrior two. So all that means is you turn from facing the front and then you open your chest towards the side. And just keep an eye on your front knee there. Make sure that is still over the ankle. Awesome. Eyes are fixed on one point, and we focus the eyes because it focuses the mind. If you imagine if your eyes are wandering around and looking at everybody else or distracted, you're not in the zone, you're not giving yourself that time. So we have a drishti, which means a focus point. Every pose has a drishti. And so here, and usually it's on the outer middle finger. So the middle finger of the right hand. Brilliant. And then you're going to reverse your warrior. So you lower the back arm to support yourself, either on the thigh or the lower back. If you're feeling bendy, maybe it goes around into the front thigh. Loads of options. Good. And then you reach up and back with the front arm. So if we take this really logically, you're just stretching one side of your body. So now the right side. So you stay low in the front knee. You lift up and back. Good. And then we stretch the other side. So you're going to gently place the right arm on the right leg. Then reach the left arm all the way forward. That's brilliant. So as you do this, you're going to try and open up your chest and your shoulders. So you're drawing your left shoulder back on top of your right shoulder. And feel almost a line. You can see that through Charlotte's body. There's a line from your little toe all the way to your little finger on that outside side. And you feel that lovely opening, creating space through the whole digestive system. It's great if you're doing driving or desk work, just to realign your body. So important. Good. Take an inhale. As you exhale, you're going to go through that chaturanga. So your hands are going to go down to the ground. You can step back and either make that a high plank or bring your knees down. And then exhale through low plank. Inhale to up dog. Draw, roll the shoulders back. Good. Exhale to downward facing dog. Amazing. Good. And let's just take a moment here in downward facing dog to see if you can get your feet around hip width apart. And if that doesn't feel good, take a different width with your feet. So don't be so strict on yourself that it doesn't feel comfortable. I know downward dog, when you start yoga, it doesn't feel comfortable no matter how you do it, but eventually it becomes a resting pose, okay? So maybe bend the knees a little bit. Let go of like having to get the heels down, okay? That's not necessarily going to help you. So it's not ever about what you look like in a pose. It's all about the benefit to health, okay? And how it feels. Does it feel good? So really try bending the knees, pressing the belly back towards the thighs and feel that lovely opening through the chest. Amazing. Remember, child's pose is always there if you want to rest. And we're going to do exactly the same on the left to keep you nice and balanced. So you're going to inhale, lift your left leg high. Perfect. So really energize through the heel there. So push through the heel, light on the fingertips. And then when you're ready, you exhale and step that through to warrior one. Try and be really light as you do that. That takes loads of practice, but have that intention. Good, exactly. So you reach your arms up towards the sky and you really ground down through your feet. So we have this sense of like earthing through the feet and then sending the energy up through the fingertips. We call this Sthira Sukha. So this is about having strength and softness in balance. So a lot of the sessions that we were talking about was all about creating balance and coming out of dis-ease. Okay, and so the body will show us through disease. We can see this in our practice, both in terms of alignment. So if you're out of balance in your body's going to show you that. You see that through lots of different forms of exercise. So yoga is about bringing yourself back into balance. But also in terms of our energy, like, are we more masculine? Are we more strong? Or are we more feminine? Are we more soft? And can we find the balance there? So in this pose, can you try and find that? Can you find strength through your legs and then a softness through the shoulders and the jaw? And all of these kind of teachings in yoga, they reflect off the mat. So you're asking yourself the question, do I have that balance of strength and softness off the mat? And where might I be out of balance there? Now, what effect might that be having? Relationships, physical health? It's a lot more than just the pose. It's what the pose teaches us about ourselves. Really nice. Take an inhale there. Open that up to warrior two. So that's where you turn, so the body turns and opens, the chest faces the wall. Just feel whether the back arm is as high as the front arm. Most of the time people look at it when they're new to yoga, but try to feel where you are rather than have to see. And then when you're ready, reverse your warrior. So you just support yourself with the back arm, you lift up and back, take a lovely long inhale and really create space. So you're creating space on the inhale and the exhale, you're moving deeper into it. Awesome. And then take that into your side angles. You gently place the front arm on the front leg and you reach the back arm forward. So you stretch one side, you stretch the other side. Really good. Turn the top shoulder open. So we're always trying to open our heart. When we open up the heart physically, we open it up emotionally. Remember, we're moving away from that dualistic separation between the physical and the emotional, knowing that everything is completely connected. Take a deep inhale and exhale, let it go. High plank, low plank. So the arms cartwheel down, lovely. We exhale to the ground and then inhale, up dog, open your heart a little bit more. Exhale, press downward dog. Good. Again, take a deep breath in, big clearing breath out. Good. From there, look forward, step or jump the feet to the hands, both of them. Yeah, amazing. Let's take a little ragdoll here, just to shake it out, just to soften. So ragdoll, the feet are wide, maybe hip width apart or wider. And you're going to take your hands on either elbow, and you take this almost like swinging, swaying position. And really try and let the head go. So I remember when I first started yoga, like I didn't want to do anything that kind of felt silly. I was so worried about what I looked like. And a massive part of yoga is about letting go of that. Like not worrying about what other people think, not worrying about what you look like, but doing what is good for you instead. Okay, so just try to let go. Try to let the head go, let the arms go, soften the knees, take a big breath in, big clearing breath out. Perfect. Good. And then from there, gently toe heel the feet together. And then uncurl yourself up to standing, nice and slow. Feel like you're stacking each vertebrae. And then take your arms up on a big inhale, reach up. Maybe a little back bend at the top. So you press the hips forwards and the thumbs back and you really open up the whole of your front body. Amazing. And then settle your hands at heart center. You might want to turn to face us, Charlotte, just so we can see. Yeah, perfect. So you're going to move into a tree pose here. Okay, so this is a balance, and usually I can hear people kind of groan when I say balance because nobody seems to like balances. Okay, but this is a great way just to see whether we are in balance. Yeah, not kind of testing yourself, but just knowing where are you each time you come and practice. So we're going to start on the right side. So just lift your right foot up and press it into your left calf or thigh. Good, and try and keep your knee lovely and wide, and then draw your hips open. So you're not twisting over to one side. So the right knee opens wide and the left hip pulls back. Good. Really push the foot into the standing leg, yeah, so you have a strong base to your building, if you like. And then you hug the core in, so you pull the pit of the belly in and up. We have that strength, that stirrer, and then we have this softness, the sukum through the shoulders, the jaw. And you might want to expand the arms if that feels good. And like when you start this, you're going to be wobbling all over the place, and that is cool. Don't worry about it. It's just the body learning. Okay, so the more we practice, the more balance we're going to create. And remember, as we've been going through our sessions, we've been talking about the body is a messenger. It's knocking at your door and it's telling you something. So it's not to get annoyed at, it's not to suppress, but it's to go, okay, I hear you, I'm out of balance. Okay, and then you start asking yourself, how can I create more balance in my life? So every time you come into a pose, you're listening to your body and you're going, okay, yeah, I hear you. And then what do I need to do to bring myself into balance, into health, into ease, rather than dis-ease? Perfect, switch sides, relax, a little shake out in the middle maybe, nice. And then go for the left. So the left foot comes into your right calf or thigh. Good, and then do something else with your arms. Maybe hands to heart center, or cactus is nice. Yeah, so cactus is when they're at 90 degrees. And just notice how like different shape with your arms changes the pose, both energetically, how you feel, also from a balance perspective. So we're just taking off this kind of the sense of having to, these rules, and giving yourself some creativity, some choice, some options. And what we're trying to practice there is when someone kind of tells us what to do, which can happen a lot during our day, especially in work, you're kind of asking yourself, like, does that work for me? And so we're kind of in control of our life rather than just the doing, saying, which can be disempowering. So every time you're kind of offered a pose in yoga, question it, change it, do something that feels better for you. Good, guys. Take a deep breath in and relax, let all of that go. Perfect. Take an inhale, reach both hands up to the sky, maybe a little back bend again, and then exhale, forward fold, let that go. Nice, take a few breaths there, so breathe into the belly. And every time you exhale, just notice if the hands can go a little further. Not because we want to touch the ground, we're not trying to achieve anything here. It's not who's better or worse at yoga, that doesn't exist. Okay, but just notice how on an exhale, your body will allow you to release, relax, and increase your flexibility. Okay, so as you breathe into the belly, and it must be the belly, so inhale, expand the belly, where you need the oxygen in the organs. And then you exhale, let the body hang heavy, and you'll just find it can go a millimetre more every time. So what you're telling your body here is that you are in control, and so it will allow you to stretch. Otherwise it thinks you've fallen over if you have short breath, and it's going to hold you back to protect your joints. So if you want to increase your flexibility, breathe deeply into the belly, and every time you exhale, you go just a tiny bit further. Really nice. From there, move that into a halfway lift. So you're going to bring your hands to your thighs, squeeze your elbows into your waist, and almost as if you're imagining you're trying to press your tail back to the wall behind you, and then the crown of the head forward to the wall in front of you. So like you're creating space between every vertebrae. And then lift the pit of your belly up and into your spine, so you feel that lovely core strength. As we build strength physically, we also feel strength emotionally. Good, take an inhale. And exhale, hands to the mat, step back. We're in a high plank, and you're just going to lower yourself to the ground, low plank, and rest on your belly. This is one of people's favourites. Probably second favourite to the bit at the end where you're lying on your back. Okay, brilliant. So here is you're resting on your belly. This is called, we're going to move into Shalabhasana, which is locust pose. So a lot of the time, you can just enjoy resting for a moment whilst I explain this. So a lot of the time, when we're low on energy, we reach for external sources for energy. So whether that's coffee, sugar, whatever it might be, volume of food. And we need to remind ourselves that we create our own energy. Okay, and we can do that through movement. It's also through passion, but yoga will do it through movement and breath. And it lives in the spine. So if we do back bends, you move your spine in any way, you're going to create energy. Okay, so here's a great way to practice that. So when you're ready, interlace your hands behind your back. Good, and if that's too much, you can just keep the palms on the ground. And then as you inhale, you're going to lift your front body off the mat. And as you exhale, you're going to lift the feet off the mat. Good, this is called locust pose. So you inhale, inflate the belly, and you stay up, and you exhale, hold and stay up. And then you inhale, lift up a little bit more. Exhale, hold. You've got one more, big inhale, lift up. Good, and then exhale, relax, let it all go. Take a cheek to the mat. Lovely, swing, sway the hips, let all of that go. Good. So you can either do that one again. If you want to go a little bit further, just bring your feet up towards you. And you take the outside of your feet with your hands. Nice. And if that doesn't happen, just take one foot at a time, or as I say, always possible to do the pose before. So you're going to go for it this time. You're going to inhale, really push the feet up and back, and that's going to lift the chest off the mat. So you're not pulling with the arms are actually relaxed, you're just kicking back with the legs. Take a big inhale, try and lift up as high as you can, really go for it with the legs, and then exhale, relax. Good. Windscreen wipe the legs, so maybe flop them to the right and the left. Lovely massage for the IT bands, lower back. Perfect. And then let's take that back to child's pose. It's just a lovely contrast. We call it a counter pose. You bend your body one way, you bend it the other way, and we just get this lovely opening through the back. Nice. Child's pose is a restorative pose. So from here, we start moving into yin. So you've had a little bit of an introduction to what yoga is all about, and then a slow flowing sequence. And we would call that yang. We call that the higher energy. And then we move into yin. So you've heard of the yin and the yang. The yin is the slower, more grounding, relaxation-based part of the sequence. Okay, so when you're ready, let's take this into downward facing dog. And then you're just going to bring your right leg through. So the right knee comes behind the right wrist, and your foot goes behind the left wrist. And it's not going to get all that way, but that's where you're aiming. And then you walk the left leg all the way back. This is called half pigeon. Inhale, lift your chest, so really open up. Again, you create the space and then fold into it. So that lovely long spine, you fold forward. Amazing. And yeah, you can either rest the head on the ground. If it doesn't quite get there, you can stack your fists. You can put one fist down, the other fist on top of it, and just pop that under your forehead. So yin is very different to yang. There's not better or worse, they just have different qualities. So yang is higher energy, and it's more challenging in terms of kind of cardio, heat, strength, and yin is the opposite, and we need both. So remember we were talking about Ayurveda, we were talking about the principles of Ayurveda being that health science, that life science of creating balance in the body. So for example, if you're very pitta, like I am, if your nature is pitta, fire-based, you'll have a tendency to do stuff that is fast, that is challenging. But if you keep doing fire, 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 then you might burn out and experience that burnout. Too much fire turns to ash. So we need to balance that yang, that fiery energy with yin, with cooling, to bring us into balance, to avoid dis-ease in that way. And it's the same on the opposite scale. So if you're maybe kapha and you go slow generally, then we need a little bit of heat to create balance for you, to stop any of that kind of congestion building up. So always considering what you need from a health perspective, not always what you want, because we're going to be inclined to go for what's easy for us, but what you need, almost parenting yourself. Here in these hip openers, we're letting go. So remember the jaw, really common to clench the teeth when you come into a hip opener, because actually the jaw and the hips are connected. Really good. Soften the belly. That's that letting go. All these poses when you're on your front have this instinctual sense of safety as the belly is protected by the spine. Take a deep breath in. Every exhale, you melt in just 10% more and see what you can let go of. Big part of these poses in yin is stillness, which can be so hard for so many of us when we're used to busyness. It can feel uncomfortable to be still. It's actually uncomfortable to be with ourselves sometimes and not distracting ourselves with noise, TV, work, whatever it might be. Can we just be with ourselves and to face whatever is coming up, whatever we know that really we need to work with, work through. One more deep breath in. Big sigh out, let that go. Amazing. And switch sides in your own time. So you're going to gently push back into downward facing dog or just tabletop if down dog feels too much. Yeah, softly pedal out that right leg, gently on the knee. And you're going to switch sides in your own time. So this left leg comes through. Amazing, good. Really relax through the right leg. And inhale, lift your chest up and open. And then exhale, fold forward. Try to stay square on the hips. We can have a tendency to kind of want to ease out of this one a little bit, but try and stay square so you're not sitting into one side. And again, in each pose, you're trying to feel for what feels good, not necessarily what feels easy, not feels hard, but what feels healthy. And when we can start to kind of gauge our life in that way, we practice that with the yoga poses, but making those decisions, so not necessarily what feels good, but what is healthy. Yeah, so there's a lot in yoga written around kind of pleasure and pain and health and trying to find that balance. That can be so useful in terms of kind of diet and other decision making in terms of lifestyle. So we know that the hips in the human body is one of the biggest spaces available. The biggest joint in the human body, the biggest space available. And when we experience emotion just means energy in motion. So it's just energy moving, that's emotion. And if we don't express emotion out of the body, then we suppress it. It has to go somewhere. And so the biggest space available is the hip joint. So quite often, if we hold in a hip opener, you may well feel certain emotions coming up. And sometimes that takes a bit of time to connect to. Sometimes we're so in the thinking mind, it's hard for us to connect with feeling in that way. The more we practice, the healthier it becomes. So it's almost like rather than having this dam which is like filling up, we have this time on our mat to just gently open up the tap, just gently allow and welcome all of our emotions, not just picking some and being afraid of others. So noticing that, using your breath to exhale it out of the space and making the choice to let that go rather than keeping it in. Good. 2 more big breaths here, clearing out all the stuff you don't need. Good, perfect. And then very gently, just take your weight over to your left side and sweep your right leg around. Good. So you're going to take this into a seated forward fold, just nice and easy, legs out in front of you. Good. And from there, just soften your knees up a little bit. So again, this is one of those classic ones where everyone feels like they really want to touch their toes. And we're just going to try and let go of that for a minute. So bend your knees a little bit. This is actually about hinging at the hips. Okay, so in fact, if I show you, so Charlotte, if you were to straighten your legs and lock out, yeah, and then reach forward, you see that rounding in the back. So that's really common. We see that a lot. But what happens when you lock your knees like that is you actually just pull on tendons behind the knees. You don't stretch muscles. If you soften your knees, so you soften the joints, then you move into the muscles. Okay, and it also tilts the pelvis, and you go down with this flat back. Okay, eventually, it takes ages to practice this well. A lot of people just kind of like jam into it and round, as we have that need to kind of like feel like we've achieved by touching the toes, whatever it might be. Okay, but just practice letting go of that. Practice being okay with actually reining it back a little bit. Not necessarily getting further, but lengthening the spine more, mobilizing the pelvis more. Good, and use your breath again. So with every exhale, you're just moving that little bit deeper into it, but with integrity. Yeah, good. So what we're doing here with this sort of practice is overcoming ego. So we all have an ego. It's a natural part of us. But if we are not conscious of it, if we're not aware of it, it can start to lead us, start to control us. So we need to be able to see that. When we see something, we can make change. So it can be fun, it can be like amusing almost to just notice it come up all the time. It's completely natural. So not judging yourself for it, but then choosing the action. Good. One more long exhale there. Nice. And then gently lie yourself all the way back. Good. You're going to take a little supine twist to finish. So you're just going to hug your right knee into your chest, give it a squeeze. Take it over to the left as you look out to the right. Good. You might want to take your right arm into cactus. That's just when you bend at the right elbow. And you breathe into the belly, and then as you exhale, you twist just a little bit more. This is lovely opening through the spine. Just a way to open up that energy channel. So it's there for you for the rest of your week, your weekend. And gently switching sides in your own time. So your legs go long. You hug your left knee up towards you. Take it over to the right and look out to the left. Brilliant, good. And enjoy it. Just the pose that feels better for you. Stay connected with that feeling, out of thinking, so you give the brain a break. Amazing, well done. And then we just rest in Shavasana. This is everyone's favourite pose. So legs go long, palms are open, feet around hip width apart. Good, and just let go completely. So if it helps you with the mantra, you can inhale, let, exhale, go. And just really let everything go. Let your body sink heavier and heavier into the ground. So this is the position that we would practice Yoga Nidra. So Nidra means sleep in Sanskrit. But it is a paradox because it's actually a form of awakening. So as we take away the distraction of the pose, we're left with stillness, we're just left with ourselves. And we know that anything that we feel physically is not coming up because of the pose, it's coming up because of an emotion, because there's something going on internally rather than externally. So through Yoga Nidra, we practice trying to find a sensation in the body. So if I was to ask you now, if you with your eyes closed were to feel into your body, so just keeping the body completely still, but just notice, is there a prevalent sensation anywhere? Is there like a tightness anywhere, an openness? Anything at all? Any kind of movement? Where is calling your attention most? And you allow yourself to tune into that area and really get to know the sensation. So notice if it feels warm or cool. Notice how big is it? Is it the size of like a golf ball or a football? And what space does it take up in your body? And if it had a colour, what colour would it be? And then if it had an image, what image comes to mind? Just the first thing that pops to mind. And if that had an emotion, what emotion could be attached to that? If you imagine your body is like a guest house, this sensation is like a message knocking at your door, and you open the door and you welcome the messenger in, and you ask it, what do you want? What does it say? And so we take time to listen to the body, to deep dive into feeling, to hearing our own needs. That practice in itself can help us feel more energized. You can dialogue with that emotion. If there was an action that you know you need to take, what is it? How could you bring that into the rest of your week or your weekend? And obviously you can return to this form of practice at any time you want to. Or you can just let your mind wander, take a deep breath in, clearing breath out, and let everything go. Shavasana actually translates into corpse pose. It's actually death of the old self. You give that up to the ground. And then gently, as you wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, you roll onto your right hand side to close your practice. You let the old energy drain out of the heart on the left and the new flushes in. This is fetal position. This actually represents rebirth. You're coming back into the world, refreshed, renewed, ready to go again. And then we start gently coming up to a seated position, any seated position, with eyes closed and hands to heart center. And we take a deep breath in. And then exhale together, we bow forward and say Namaste. Namaste, yogis. Thank you. Hope you feel re-energized, soothed. And look after yourselves. See you soon.